What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today I have for you all an account review slash coaching for Whistler, level 100. So he's pretty experienced. I'd say definitely been playing for quite a while, 271 plus days. Now, typically I do this breakdown right here. I show the breakdown of their account. That's basically a snapshot in time. And then I go over their gear, so on and so forth. I'm not going to do that in today's video just because I think that it's probably a little bit better for the viewer experience. You guys can let me know if you have, obviously, if you prefer to see that breakdown beginning. But I think jumping in here and just showing you guys the actual account will be the best for you to know, hey, is my account relatively close to this player's? Do I have something to look forward to, or what's going on versus the first few minutes being, hey, this is his snapshot in time, which may not really apply to you. So we're gonna go ahead and go through this, starting with the missions. Now, the missions are usually a very good indicator of where an account actually is. Not always, but most of the time. So right now, stuck on Gold 1 Tag Team Arena. I'm gonna have quite a bit of my focus towards getting to Gold 1. This is something that tons of players have trouble with. Tag Team Arena is challenging. However, I think a lot more players can get there than what actually believe they can. It's honestly a lot of players who I've helped get into Gold 1, specifically Tag Team Arena, who've been struggling for a while, but it's really just a small tweak, small changes, something they've overlooked, that once they change their champions, they can actually get into Gold 1. And once you get there, the Ramen 2 missions, they're still annoying. They definitely are still annoying, but they're much smoother. Looking at his Great Hall, it's pretty good. The Great Hall, level 164, we have accuracy fully maxed out. Getting things like resistance and crit damage maxed out next is fantastic. And then really, once you get crit damage, resistance, and accuracy maxed out, these other stats are nice to have, especially if you're pushing like higher levels of arena, speed runs and stuff in dungeons. But to be honest, HP percentage, attack and defense percentage, they're not gonna be quite as impactful as these other three. They're still very helpful, but to be honest, getting these first three are really going to help you hit those minimums, especially with resistance and accuracy. Hitting the minimums and things like Hydra, Sand Devils, Shoguns, whatever it may be, is a lot easier when you have an extra 80 accuracy and an extra 80 resistance. So getting especially accuracy and resistance done makes life a little simpler. Now, as far as the areas of the game in here, campaign, we don't care about that. Dungeons, I'm going to get into it more. Faction Wars. This is something, guys, that deserves the like from you. So like hit the like button down below. It's a really weird way to word that, but drop a like on the channel, subscribe, so on and so forth. But listen to this, okay? Go in here, team setup, delete every single one of these. This says Nether Spider. Guess what? It's a lie. This is not for Nether Spider. All these presets are for Faction Wars and Faction Wars only. Whenever Plarium made these new presets, everything got copied over. So all these teams were probably made months and months ago, and they're irrelevant. This is only for Faction Wars. So you have enough presets to make an individual Faction War setup for each of your factions, which means your stage 20 or even your stage 21 teams can be so much quicker. Let's go over real quick to confirm this in Doom Tower, that in fact, the presets are not the same. So we have Nether Spider right there. Oh look, I deleted it from Faction Wars, and it's not deleted from Doom Tower. So Faction Wars are separate, Doom Tower is separate, Dungeons and Clan Boss are separate, and then Hydra Clan Boss is separate. So Faction Wars, there we go, quick and easy. He's finished Faction Wars, not much to say there. Now, as far as Arena, he's in Gold 5 farming it. Makes sense, Gold 5, pretty easy. Definitely farming gold medals, getting that done. 3v3, he's in Silver 2, and then Live Arena in Silver 1. To be honest, Live Arena is a pain if you're trying to grind really hard in it. And until you're to the point where your Live Arena bonuses, and I mentioned this in a video before, until they're to the point where they're like pushing this level 7, I would honestly say push up to Silver 4 in Live, and then like lose your 3, face a bot, and then lose your 3 again, face a bot, and just basically farm the bots in Silver Arena so that you can fill all this stuff out. Because getting this extra speed in Hydra specifically, say working up to 24 extra speed, it's gonna take a while, but 24, no, sorry, that's not speed, that's resistance. Let's go with speed. I was like, that's a lot of extra speed, plus 8 extra speed, or even 10, or even 12 if you can farm enough silver, plus 12 extra speed for Hydra is pretty significant, plus 48 resistance, plus 48 accuracy. All that stuff is very nice. And even if you want to throw into these other areas, it's going to help you move through them a little bit quicker. So when it comes to Live Arena, if you're not somebody who wants to play it every day forever, just jump in here, leave the match, so have a easy victory for the opponent, and then actually face a bot. Pick your favorite team, because in Silver you have no restrictions. You can do whatever you want. So just pick your Arbiter, your Kymar, your Nuke champions, and just do the increase speed, decrease defense, everything like typical. Now, when you go against bots, they always ban your first pick. So make sure your first pick is like not an ultimate death knight, just like a regular death knight. Put a regular death knight in there, and then boom, they'll ban that. And then everything else you have will be your actual team. So tag team arena, let's talk about this. After this, we're gonna talk about the gearing and then go into how he can improve the gear on his account. So right now he's in silver 2. I don't think this is where he belongs. I think silver 3 is very easy for him. Silver 4 should definitely be happening. And then gold 1, I really think in the next 3 weeks, I guess, he should be in gold 1. It's definitely something that's achievable. And right now his defense is winning, which is pretty impressive considering this defense is not the typical that I build, but it makes sense. The reason why I'm personally not a huge fan of 2 speed teams is because most of the time players can look at you and say, okay, this Arbiter right here who's awakened is probably the faster one. 322 versus 312, okay? Typically, the more invested in team is gonna be the little bit faster one. And the reason why it's a problem is because if players are building go second teams, they can just put the go second team versus your fastest Arbiter, use their fastest team versus your other speed team, and then most likely their speed team's gonna beat your speed team because speed teams really just depend on who goes first, and then their go second team is probably gonna beat your fastest Arbiter team if they're built correctly. Now looking at this first team, we have a few things going on here. So UDK is blocking damage from the other 4 champions. Basically, single target champion's kind of irrelevant. You gotta bring an AoE damage dealer. Wukong in here is kind of cool. However, there's no increased attack buffs, which is kind of unfortunate because Wukong is an attack-based damage dealer, and we want to get as much attack from him as possible if you're using him as a damage dealer. But if you're using him as a buff stripper, well, I'm not for sure if your Magnar is going to be able to solo the entire enemy team. His stats are kind of low currently. Cardinal is a really cool champion. However, I feel like Cardinal plus UDK is kind of trying to throw 2 different strategies into one. The Cardinal strategy is kind of, hey, put her very slow, make her very high resistance, put her in 6 pieces of stone skin so she doesn't die, and then she reses everybody. However, with UDK, you're kind of saying, hey, I don't want to die, I want to survive, and Cardinal's saying, yes, I want everybody else to die, but I want to survive and I want to res those champions. So when you have Cardinal and UDK together, it's kind of like opposite effects, I feel like, opposite strategies. Whereas if you were to do, say, Cardinal plus Lydia, because now if they revive their champion somehow, then Lydia can block the revive, but she also places decreased defense and weaken to help your nukers do more damage. So you could do something like Lydia in here. You could have your Wukong, or you could throw in a champion like, let's see, Mithrala, maybe a Lydia plus Mithrala plus some other champion, or a strip champion. You could do Madame Ceres. There's various different champions you could do. I even like champions like Yoshi, Madame Ceres, and Gaius, a nice little bomb team there. Now, speed tuning those does get a little bit different, but I do think if you're going to go the Cardinal route, you got to kind of go all in. And if you're going to go the UDK route, you kind of need to go all in there. Also, you got Rotos. Rotos plus UDK is an awesome strategy. Pytheon, we have some very neglected, amazing 3v3 champions down there. And the main thing though with this, apart from actually building the teams, actually let's jump in here and build some offense/defense teams just real quick, okay? Just kind of top of my head, we'll do Pytheon UDK. This is a very solid combo here. This basically means, hey, Pytheon's protected and UDK is taking all the hits. He's in super slow stone skin gear. So he's taking all these hits. Pytheon's gonna be healing, gonna be rezzing, gonna be making basically everybody a big, massive annoyance. Now, you have Rotos and Siphi. You could have those 2 champions together, or you could try to throw Siphi and a different team by herself. Now, you do want a speed team because you're using speed teams before, and it does work well. It's nice to have one fast team. So 322 Arbiter is your Yumiko speed tune with that Arbiter. Let's see, 268. Not really, I think she's gonna be a little bit slow, but just for the sake of this, we could go even like Arbiter, Siphi, Yumiko plus, we could go Rotos because she would just cleanse the Rotos. This would be a pretty easy team. We have the increased attack. We have the Siphi cleansing the Rotos. The Siphi should be able to make okay, she's not quite fast enough, unfortunately. Your Siphi would need to be like 300 speed, 290, somewhere around there if you wanted this kind of team to work. But it would be Arbiter going first. Technically, Siphi should go first in this situation because then you can answer Torment teams. But let's say you didn't want to do that. Say a Hegemon. Say you only wanted to win all the speed fights. Here you go. You have a Hegemon who can use his A2 or uses A1 ability. He's kind of got decent accuracy already. Kind of like a hybrid Hegemon here. But just as an example, okay, drop Tormund because now you want an AoE damage dealer. For an AoE damage dealer, who do you have that's very solid? We have Foley. He's pretty decent. We have Trunda. There we go. Pretty easy team here. Trunda doesn't need decreased attack, decreased defense. She just nukes through anything no matter what. Have Hegemon, boom. This is your answer versus speed teams. This team right here, we have Pythion plus UDK. We can throw in various different champions. With this, if we don't run a strip champion, you want to make sure whoever you're throwing in here can take an enemy team by themselves. So a champion who has ignore defense type stats. So Rotos, excellent champion. He ignores enemy defense. But with this also said, you would like to have an increase attack champion. We got a few options. We could go Duchess for a pretty annoying team, definitely. Or we could say, okay, we're going to save Duchess for a different team, and then we're going to put in a Mithrala. Mithrala brings an increased attack. She also brings another cleanse, various different effects, and Rotos can take a team by himself. Not a big deal. Or you could go a little bit more aggressive approach. Go down here, throw in a Madame Ceres. If he has one, he does. Throw in a Madame Ceres and Stone Skin. Rotos is going to be pretty tanky. Throw Pythion possibly and bolster. There's a lot of different strategies you could do with this kind of go second team, and it kind of just takes checking out your gear, seeing what you have, what goes where, and then making this team actually work. But if you do a team like this, you got to make sure this damage dealer can hit pretty daggone hard. This is an excellent team. I built it for a lot of players getting into Gold 1. It's very, very solid, and it wins very often. You just got to make sure the gear on all the champions is appropriate. So let's say this is the team we ended up going with. Madame Ceres is in Stone Skin gear. Just an example. Doesn't necessarily mean this is the best team. The next things you have, well, we have Siphi. Siphi, we also have a Tormund. Siphi and Tormund go amazing together. Let's say we did Mighty Uko to strip them. So now they have no block debuff. So Tormund is a perfect champion to bring in here. We have Mighty Uko, Tormund, Siphi. Now we have two res champions. We have an increased defense champion from Siphi. And we have Mighty Uko stripping him, stunning him if he's in stun set. All kinds of craziness. So after that, let's go ahead and find another champion. So who do we want to use as the last champion? We could use Sun Wukong. We have no increased attack buff for him, but he's still going to do some work. Sun Wukong is definitely a very annoying champion. We could bring in a Duchess, but to be honest, we probably don't need all that nonsense. Siphi in this team could actually be like a pseudo go first team. So she's not going to be the fastest champion. She has a speed aura from Mighty Uko, but you could build her like 315 speed, and if the enemy doesn't bring a fast enough team against you, well, you're going to be faster than them. But if they bring a team that is very fast, well, you still may be able to survive, especially if you brought something like a Duchess. However, the issue with Duchess is that you'll most likely be in for a very long fight if Tormund's not able to nuke everything. But here we go, Valkyrie. This is a solid team. This has two defense-based damage dealers, a strip champion, as well as a increased speed, increased defense, increased turn meter, a block debuffs champion. So here is a very solid option, in my opinion, for a team that you could use alongside this speed team. And then this team up top. This team up top, you could have Duchess, you could have Mithrala, you could have various different champions. If your Rotos isn't quite hitting hard enough, throw in a Duchess. Duchess in this team is going to make it super, super annoying. Like, this team is really not going anywhere. Matter of fact, that may even be the best play. As long as your Rotos can one-shot people and take them down, you're not going to want to go against other UDKs, of course. Your third team is going to be what you go against UDKs with, for example. But the first one is going to do very solid against enemy speed teams. Throw this Duchess in a bolster set, and you got a disgusting team. Throw that team. Let's see this just for example, okay? Now, all the builds are what really are going to make this team or break it. But for example, this team at the bottom, this is going to destroy any Rotos team, most speed teams, if it's built properly, and it's going to do fantastic. This team is going to do very well against their second team. And then the top team, it's basically saying, hey, I hope to miss the Mortu. Hopefully we can strip him, or hopefully we can lock everybody out. Actually, that's a little too sketchy. Don't do that. This one is good here. You're going to kill everybody. They have a Cardinal. You can swap in a Lydia, no problem. Swap Lydia in for, say, maybe Yumiko, or really whatever. You could even throw a Madame Ceres in Yumiko's spot. The possibilities are definitely open. This account has very, very plenty options for when it comes to 3v3. This top team has a lot of chances to actually activate Mortu's Peril. However, you could just nuke through it. Like, you have a lot of control here. You have Mighty Uko, chance at stunning, stripping, Tormund, locking people out, Valkyrie, nuking, as well as just adjusting, manipulating their turn meter. So a lot of stuff going on here. But these are just some example teams for 3v3. So I just finished up Gear Cleanse on this account, which if you guys are interested in 3v3 help, Gear Cleanse, account review, whatever it may be, then just click the link down below, get signed up, and we can get started on that. But I did a Gear Cleanse on this account, and something I noticed was we have a lot of the typical sets from Dragon. So we have a lot of speed, we have a lot of lifesteal, which is really not needed, later into the game. We had a decent amount of accuracy, which honestly perception is just so much better. More lifesteal than what we actually need. The speed stuff is nice. So like during 3x speed for Dragon, farm it. But outside that, and for events and stuff, I wouldn't really farm a ton of Dragon. Like perception's gonna do great for most of your champions. And the really only thing you're using speed gear for mostly at this point in the game is getting those doubles and triple speed rolls just to make your champions even faster. Life's still not needed. What you're looking for at this point is a few different things. You're looking for the sets from Ice Golem. You're looking for things like Cursed for Hydra. You're looking for things like Retaliation for like niche builds. You're looking for things like Provoke also for Hydra, and Reflex for like speed runs and different things. But even more than Ice Golem, what you're looking for are the sets from Fire Knight. So Fire Knight is somewhere you definitely want to start climbing. Now Fire Knight's a problem. It's definitely a difficult dungeon, but using champions like your Valkyrie, who you're probably going to be building for the arena, get her to like 250 speed. She's going to work well in the higher stages of Fire Knight, and put her in Savage gear. She's going to do very solid. It may be a difficult build to hit, but it is possible. So Savage, Regeneration, and Stun, crit damage, and shield, all these sets are so good. So Fire Knight, definitely going to be the dungeon that we want to start focusing on the most in this account. Fire Knight is going to bring you massive upgrades. So definitely start pushing even to stage 6 if you can. As far as Ice Golem, I just now finished climbing up to stage 10. Before I jumped in here, it was stage 1. So now we're doing stage 10. It's not a very fast team, but it's a consistent team. It's a safe team. So stage 10 Ice Golem, definitely worth farming, picking up some of the sets. But honestly, if you're worried about getting into Gold 1, which I imagine you are to get to Ramen 2, then Fire Knight is going to be the place that unlocks that. Those sets are going to be incredible. Also, Lethal from Dark Fae and the Doom Tower is definitely somewhere worth farming. Now, once your gear gets a little bit better, I'm going to jump into actually showing you guys the gear in a little bit. Sand Devils is definitely worth doing. Honestly, it's worth climbing and doing during these tournaments. Definitely worth doing during those times. Sand Devils is a place that is extremely valuable. For me, at this point in the game, it's on my account, one of the most valuable dungeon, but until you get really good gear, it's really not worth ascending it. Like this piece of gear, it's okay. And actually, it's kind of worth a sell, honestly. Like HP percentage on Cruel is already a little bit questionable, but then it's a flat defense roll, double resistance, and then a speed roll. Yeah, it's on his Tomb Lord, but to be honest, this is not a good piece. So once you start getting those consistent good pieces on your champions, then you can start ascending them, awakening them, whatever it's called. I don't freaking know. I forget the terms, but once you start ascending the pieces of gear, that's going to make just a huge difference in your overall stats, especially when you ascend those stone skin pieces going on your arena champions moving into Gold 1. So I want to finish going through his set. So we talked about speed, we talked about Ice Golem stuff, crit damage, decent amount, nothing crazy. The Savage is actually pretty decent. We definitely need to get some of the pieces rolled up. We have a decent amount of stuff here, a lot of potential, but looking through here gives me a good idea of what champions you're using as nukers. So Genbo, Magnar, and Yannica. Those are the three I want to check the builds on. And then here, we don't really care about that stuff. Stun is nice to have, Toxic. But the next things we're going to be looking for is Cruel. You have a lot of Cruel gear being used in a lot of champions. What I'm seeing is Cruel gear is you're supplementing that instead of Savage. Savage is much better than Cruel, has much more defense ignore, but Cruel definitely has its place. So Savage plus Cruel, that's like the ideal situation. Actually, Lethal plus Cruel is the ideal situation, but you have a lot of Cruel, definitely worth trying to swap Savage on some of those champions and then using the Cruel as a two-piece set. Immortal, a good stockpile of that for sure. But down here, these are the sets that you're going to be using the most of. That is a lot of perception gear. Lethal, you're going to be using a ton of that. Protection, situational, but Stone Skin. This should be where most of your gear is chilling. Stone Skin is so versatile. You can use it on damage dealers. You can use it on support champions. You can use it on tons of different champions. So Stone Skin, definitely worth doing Hydra, getting higher levels, getting 2 chests on all the difficulties you can because Stone Skin is so incredible. Instinct is good, but Bolster, this is going to be a set that you're going to be wanting to work towards even better pieces of. I'm going to check the Forge in just a minute as well. And then Righteous is mostly nice for PvE content, but it's still an amazing set even for some PvP stuff. So as far as your Forge, okay, you have a lot of Bolster. I love that. So Bolster, looking for speed and HP percentage. That's the main things. Once you forge a good chunk of this, always make sure you use your charms here. But you're going to be in a pretty good spot. I'll visit the Forge in just a little while. I don't want to get too scatterbrained and all over the place. What I want to talk about is the champions that we mentioned. Genbo, he's a damage dealer. Yannica, and then one other champion, but I don't think it really matters. So here we go, Genbo. Let's check him out. He's in Savage, 4-piece, plus Cruel. Pretty nice. Now, you have a lot better damage dealers than Genbo. However, he is okay for the unkillable ignoring from his passive ability. when he's under increased attack. So I can understand why you have him. 70% crit rate, that's okay. He gives himself an increased crit rate buff. Pretty decent crit damage, I like that. Good attack. Really, I would like to see these stats on all your damage dealers, okay? 5,000 plus attack or defense, whichever stat they deal damage based off of. About 200 speed, 100% crit rate ideally on those other champions, and then like 225, 230 plus crit damage is gonna do very, very well for you. And I think you could hit that on a lot of different champions. At least start to try to build a few attack-based damage dealers, maybe a defense or 2 defense-based damage dealers, and then possibly an HP-based damage dealers. It's nice to have a variety because some of those pieces you have may be S-tier HP percentage pieces, and you can't use that really on a attack-based damage dealer. It's just not going to be that good. Next up, we have Yannicka. So Yannicka, let's see how she's built. She is not booked, so probably not used that much. She is in Savage. She is not crit capped, very low crit damage, pretty low speed, not great attack stats, and really probably not being used that much, to be honest. So the next champion, we already saw a little bit into his stats. He is in Cruel plus Savage, very nice. 204 speed, that's good. 153 crit damage, that's not good. But let's see why that's happening. Plus very low HP percentage, especially for an HP-based damage dealer. So crit rate gloves, we want to start working those out. Your account is past the point of needing crit rate gloves. Crit damage with crit rate substats everywhere else, that's the goal. This weapon is really not a great Savage piece. Unfortunately, it rolled pretty poorly for you. Crit rate and attack and crit damage, you'd rather this 3 be anywhere else. But honestly, you have it still, so keep it on your champions, but it's probably a sell most other times. This piece is okay. It's not fantastic, but it gives you the crit rate, gives you the speed. That's kind of what you need on your champions right now. Not amazing. You definitely have better pieces. This piece, once again, there's no crit rate. So looking for crit rate on your pieces, especially the rolls on crit rate, is really going to help you start pushing your account to that higher level. Because right now you have really no crit rate rolls anywhere. So it's really going to be your focus, is getting these crit rate gloves off, getting crit damage gloves on, and then just getting crit rate substats everywhere else, as well as speed. And now this necklace is crit damage good, definitely going to be working towards speed substats on the banners. Now, this is just Magnar, but in general, that's going to be pretty consistent across the board. Your damage dealer pieces are going to be crit rate, speed, and the attack percentage, or the defense percentage, or HP percentage, whatever you're looking for, crit damage. But as far as the actual gear cleanse went, when I was looking through the pieces, your account is not at the point anymore where keeping offset pieces that possibly make sense is really needed. Like, you've completed most of the game content as far as PvE stuff. So at this point, you're wanting to make sure that the pieces you keep are actually going to be used. So when you're keeping speed pieces, you're not necessarily looking for average damage dealer pieces. Like if it has crit rate, HP, and accuracy, like this piece right here, it's not necessarily something you're going to be using. Unless, of course, it triple rolls crit rate. Then it could possibly be used on one of your damage dealers. Double roll accuracy, single roll crit rate, possibly an allure piece, but most likely you're just not going to use that. It has no speed on it, and it's probably not going to be fantastic for anybody you're using. You're looking for gear that's going to be top tier at this point, to be honest. You're looking for, when you're going to your crit damage pieces, you're looking for things like crit rate. You're looking for things like crit damage. You're looking for those stats specifically. You're looking for speed, attack, crit damage. This works. Getting your speed boost on your champions. Getting more crit rate rolls across your gear in general. Like a double roll crit rate here would be an amazing piece of gear. There we go. An amazing piece of gear for your account. That will start helping you switch from those crit rate gloves into those crit damage gloves. So when you're looking at crit damage, you're thinking, okay, I'm gearing this for a damage dealer. What does a damage dealer need? Do I need just one roll, some rolls into accuracy? No, not really. That's just going to be a sell. This piece right here, unless it does some good rolls into like crit rate, it's probably just going to be a sell. Like triple roll accuracy. Yeah, you don't need this. Like this is going to be used on so few champions. Your account is past that point. So crit damage, boom, there we go. That's going to be the very similar thing with Savage. If you're looking at these pieces, hey, what's it roll? Okay, we're getting double roll attack and single roll speed. This could possibly be used on somebody. Once you start getting triple roll crit rates on other pieces of gear, this could fit in as some extra speed. Maybe it even rolls crit rate when we go to 16. That's going to be an excellent piece for your account. If so, it rolls resistance. So it's okay. It may be difficult to fit into some pieces, some champions, but it's possible. You're looking for those double roll crit rates, like I said, like right here. Double roll crit rate possibly, double roll defense. However, it does have crit rate. It's going to be harder to fit, but definitely something that you're going to be wanting to look out for is getting crit damage gloves on all your champions. Crit damage gloves with crit rate are going to be fantastic. If you find those on broken sets, keep them. that's one piece of gear you definitely want to start keeping. Outside of that, when it comes to your support champions, what are you going to be keeping? So the main thing is going to be HP percentage with speed rolls, defense percentage with speed rolls as well. So main stat, HP or defense percentage, speed rolls are going to be fantastic for your account. But when you're looking through these sets, keep in mind, okay, it's Cruel. I'm not going to use the support sets for somebody wearing Cruel. No, Cruel's a damage dealer set. So you're looking for damage dealer stats. Your account is past the stats over sets point mostly. So at this point, you're really looking for, hey, the set, does it match the stats, or at least some of the stats down below? Do some of the roles actually make sense? And if so, you're moving on, keeping that piece, and then building your champions to hit those higher numbers. Like a little soft little goal to hit is like 200 speed, 5,000 plus attack or defense, and then 225, somewhere around there, crit damage. This is not like specific mathematical numbers. This is kind of just like what I shoot for with most of my champion builds, and then 200 plus speed, making them relatively fast, making them hit hard, and then kind of just growing from there. But getting that crit damage, once again, is going to be fantastic for your account. Now look at the Forge, resilience, perception. This is basically just silver farms for you now. Do not use any charms on those. You have plenty of that stuff for now. Affinity breaker, untouchable. Honestly, I would say only use your charms right now on lethal, instinct, bolster, defiant, righteous possibly, but you need to use what you currently have first. So honestly, lethal, definitely. Always have charms for lethal. Only forge it if you have charms. For bolster, when you forge it, use charms. Look for either speed or HP percentage. Ideally speed, that's gonna be one of the best things, but HP percentage is the next best substat for bolster set. When it comes to instinct, I'm always looking for crit rate, because once again, you're trying to get out of crit rate gloves. To get out of crit rate gloves, you're gonna need crit rate substats. So forge an instinct with crit rate, same thing with lethal, is gonna make your life so much easier. Another thing you're gonna be wanting to watch out for is when you're upgrading specifically gloves to like level 12. Say you have crit damage gloves, they're in a different set, not even a damage dealer set. But if they're crit damage gloves, they seem to be doing decent. Get them to 12, send them to see if maybe they roll crit rate as well. This is gonna be huge. If you're getting gloves that have, say, double roll crit rate on them already, and then you ascend them and they're getting even more crit rate, this is gonna put you to the point where now you're starting to really get serious with your builds. This piece may not be amazing as far as the other substats, the resistance and defense, but this double roll crit rate makes it worth taking to 16. For where your account's at currently, this is definitely worth it. Is it the best piece? Definitely not. Could it ascend extra crit damage, extra crit rate, maybe attack or defense? Yeah, it definitely could. And that would be amazing if it did. So as far as the gear in your account right now, you're moving from keeping anything and everything, if the stats make sense, to, hey, the sets need to match the stats, and I'm looking to put damage dealer sets on my damage dealers. There are some sets that can be kind of, hybrid sets, so on and so forth. But for now, we're just focusing on, hey, supports get support type sets, damage dealers get damage dealer type sets. Now moving on to Clan Boss, he's good on Demon Lord. Everything looks good here. One key and everything, perfect. As far as Hydra goes, I want you to get to do a Nightmare as soon as possible. It's definitely possible in your account right now. As soon as you can, do Nightmare. Nightmare Hydra, Brutal Hydra, and Hard Hydra. You should be downing all three of these with your clan each week, getting the top chest, and collecting all that sweet, sweet Stone Skin gear. Winning Hydra Clash as well if you can, but no Corpulent Cadaver, so who knows if that's actually going to happen. But definitely, you want to be doing all these Hydra difficulties to make sure you're getting as much stuff as you possibly can. So guys, I think that's going to wrap it up. Hopefully this helps you out, Whistler. I've enjoyed doing this. It's been fun. I really enjoyed doing the 3v3 stuff, especially. I do think that if you build those 3 teams that I put in there and you build them seriously, your defense is going to do much better. Your offense is going to be very easy, especially full auto, and you're going to be able to get into Gold 1 very soon. The gearing of those champions is crucial, though. Making sure those champions are built correctly is going to be the difference between walking up to Gold 1 or still kind of struggling. Now, there's champions you can swap in, swap out, so on and so forth, but definitely something worth keeping in mind. So guys, let me know if you like this a little bit different strategy or different approach to an account takeover. I didn't show the sheet at the beginning. I went a little bit more in depth into Arena specifically, and it's not the typical one with dungeon builds. Now, as far as dungeon builds go, he does have some options for Hydra, or not Hydra, for Fire Knight. However, Valkyrie is going to be in the team. You're probably going to have Cardiel, but you don't actually have Cardiel. So he's not going to be in the team. Champions like Razovarg, possibly going to be in the team. You don't have him. Newt is going to be in the team. Yukaro is probably going to be in the team. So champions like this are going to be in the team. These kinds of champions are going to help you out with actually clearing Fire Knight, possibly Helicath. I did a team with him before, Ferric the Fat. All these champions are going to be very, very good for you actually getting to Fire Knight. So right now, what are you going to do when you get the account back? I'd say work on Fire Knight, start farming that, start farming Ice Golem pretty seriously, working towards getting Hydra, all 3 difficulties done. While you're doing that, focus on moving up in 3v3 so you can finish your missions, get Ramen 2 as soon as possible. And then once you finish doing Fire Knight farming for a while, Ice Golem farming kind of on the side, make sure you're farming up Sand Devils as well, getting to stage 25 as soon as possible, 24 or 25. Once you get there, start dumping a good amount of energy. By that time, you should have a decent stockpile of pretty good pieces from Fire Knight, Ice Golem, Forge Passes, Doom Tower, all that kind of different stuff. And then along the way, still do some spiders. You want to make sure your silver stays good, and it's always possible to get upgrades from Spider to your accessories. I mean, there's so many possible accessories, so doing that is definitely a very, very solid option. Definitely make sure you're doing that, and then just finishing out stuff for fusions or anything like that along the way. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. It was a bit longer than I expected, about 30 minutes. You already know by now, if you're interested in having an account takeover done, click the link down below, get signed up, get into contact with me on Discord, and we will get the ball rolling. But with that said, hope you guys learned something. Hopefully you have a great rest of your day, and I'll catch you all in the next one.